Hello and welcome to Rude Rob's Wrestling. Hit that like and subscribe button. This is a place and a channel where we will meet all your wrestling needs. Today what we got going on is a belt review. We got the Big Gold Shop Rhine as some people call it, but what it is called is the Crumrine version of the Big Gold. And how many know that this championship belt has a long, prestigious history? It first came out, I believe, in 1986 as it replaced the Dome Globe NWA Championship, and it was first known as the NWA Championship, which later on became the WCW Championship. But what I really want to talk about is the first time that this belt really caught my attention. The first time that I ever seen it on national television, and it really, I was like, wow, that is a beautiful belt, was when it came to WWF via the self-proclaimed real world's champion, Ric Flair. Woo! How many know he's one of the greatest of all time? But at that time, there was already a world's champion in my point of view. It was the WWF champion who had the Winged Eagle belt, Hulk Hogan. But Bobby Heenan would appear on shows with this belt, this version of the belt, the Crumrine version. And it was building up anticipation for what was called the Real World's Champion. So the story that I gather would happen was that Ric Flair, he was leaving WCW, but he had put a significant amount of a down payment on the belt, on the Crumrine Big Gold, and he did not receive that down payment back. So what did he do? He took the belt with him to the WWF. I know many of us like to beat up on Eric Bischoff because he brought Medusa over with the Women's World Championship and they threw it in the trash can during those Monday Night Wars. But how many know that it looks like Vince McMahon was the first one to do that? Vince McMahon was the first one to pull that low down dirty move as he brought the WCW Crumrine Big Gold World Heavyweight Championship to the WWF. And at that time when it happened, it was a big deal. It was a real big deal because that was at a time, at an era where, WWF never acknowledged the competition. WWF never acknowledged, other companies, other world champions. But this time, they broke the fourth wall in that area. And I believe that, when I seen that, it was like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. They got a WCW belt in the WWF, and that was a big deal at the time. Maybe not too many people think it's a big deal now because you see it happening all the time. You see the TNA belt everywhere in AEW, in WWE, NXT, and so it's kind of more seen nowadays, more traditional now to see inner promotions like that. But back then, in that era, you wouldn't even hear of WWF even mentioning WCW or the world champion. But nonetheless, that was when this championship really caught my eye. And I remember even just, last couple of days I've been looking at old videos of it. It's a beautiful belt. This belt is beautiful. And when I first got this belt, I ain't gonna lie, when I picked it up, it felt kind of light. It felt like, it wasn't real heavy. So I was kind of like, oh man, this is a disappointment. I expected the Big Gold to be heavy. This is the prestigious belt, the most prestigious belt, some say, in all of wrestling history. And I was looking at reviews before I bought this belt and the shop version. And, people were saying that, this is the best belt that the shop has, that this is the best, for the price of it. Like you can't lose on this belt. And, so when I got it, I picked up the box and it was kind of light. I, opened it and it seemed for some reason kind of small to me. I don't know if things just look bigger on screen or, but it just looked kind of small to me. And the plates, they seemed a little plastic. They seemed a little plastic to me. So I was kind of like, okay, it's a beautiful belt, but, it's not what I expected. It's not, like I thought it was going to be. I guess I was expecting the ring one, the ring used Big Gold, something like that, something that weighs, 15 pounds or whatever, however those belts weigh, 10 pounds of gold. This looks like it should have been about 10 pounds of gold right here if that little NWA championship is, but, so when I got it, like I said, it was a little, okay, but it could be used because I'm used to those Pakistani belts. Yes, I do get those bootleg belts because I am an old school WWF wrestling guy, and I like those old school belts, and I like them to say WWF. And you can't get those on the shop. You can't get those, the licensed versions of those. So you have to go order them overseas. And I do got a couple of them, and I will be doing some belt reviews on those as well. Let you see what they look like, let you know, what my thoughts are on them, and what companies they come from over there, because they do very good job. If you're an old school guy like me, you want that WWF logo. That's what sets it off. I do get some from the shop as well, because I got the winged eagle one, the double plated one, because I like the way the plating was. The plating was beautiful. It doesn't say WWF on it, but the belt itself is beautiful. I'll be doing a review on that as well coming up. But this belt, I've had it for probably about 3 weeks now, but I gotta say, it's growing on me. The more time I come into my room and I look at it, the more beautiful it gets. Seems like it's getting even a little heavier as well, and it's not seeming as so plastic to me. So I do not regret getting this belt, and I do think that this is one of the best belts on the market. Like I said, I think I was just used to those overseas belts where they're heavy. Those belts are heavy. The last one I got was the classic IC 6mm championship. The plates are 6mm thick, and that was pretty heavy. That's a pretty heavy belt right there. So I think when I got this one, it just wasn't as heavy as I thought it was going to be, but it is growing on me. Like I said, when I pick it up, when I look at it, it's not as light no more. The plates don't seem as plasticky no more, and it's just a beautiful belt. I love this belt, and the more I watch it on TV, I be looking at it when Bobby the Brain Heenan comes out with it, and Ric Flair comes out with it, and it just looks beautiful. There's, to me, it seemed like they had many versions of this belt. Not many versions, but a couple versions. I mean, it seemed to me that they came out with an all gold. It wasn't dual plated like this. It didn't have that silver in the background. But I think what it was it just got kind of old. The belt just got kind of old, and the color started, the strap started turning, looking black. And it was the Crumrine, the original Crumrine one. I think it was just getting harder and harder to see the background of the silver back there, because when they showed it, I was watching one today, a video of it today, and they showed a close-up of it, and you can actually see the background of the silver when they got a close-up of it. So I know that they did eventually come out with a solid gold one. I don't know when that was, when that switch was actually made. I've been trying to do some studying on it, some history research on it, and it seems to me that they've had the Crumrine version the whole time. The one that got spray painted NWO was the Crumrine. Those belts that Hollywood Hogan held, Kevin Nash held, Ricky's Day. It was this Crumrine. I think it just this somehow the black silver got faded or whatever, and it just looked all gold to me. But I know eventually they did get an all gold one. I've read stories and heard of they made 3 casts of them. They sent it to another belt maker to make 3 more of them. I think like one was for Scott Steiner, one was for Kevin Nash, and I forget who the other one was for. And I think that's when it turned all gold. Let me know in the comments if you know when it actually turned all gold. That is something I really want to know, because growing up watching the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars, I always figured that it was just that gold, that plain gold one, that everything was gold, the full gold one. And obviously at a point in time it did become one, but let me know in the comments if you know when it became the full gold one, because that is something that's very interesting to me. I want to know when they changed it from the Crumrine to the full gold. But like I said, over and all, there was some complaints at first when this belt came out, the very first version of it, I guess, about the I and the O and the N being slightly smaller than the rest of the font on the heavyweight champion. But as you can see, they fixed it. I don't know if this is like the version 2 shop or whatever, but they did fix it. It is all even now. So this thing is next to perfect, next to flawless. This is a beautiful belt. I do suggest that if you are in the market for a belt, you cannot have a belt collection without the big gold Crumrine version. I do have the WCW version from shop. Not as beautiful as the Crumrine version. It's real flat. I mean, it's cool to hang, because it got that all gold look, that old school WCW look. but definitely hands down, this is the best one. And tell me what your thoughts are. Do you think that this is the real World's Heavyweight Championship? Do you think that back in those early 90s when Ric Flair came to WWF that he was the real World's Champion? And unless you're like me and you thought Hulk Hogan was the real World's Champion, that there was no other belt that can compare to the WWF World Heavyweight Champion. In my eyes, you know, it was the WWF Championship that was the World WWF Championship. But like I said, this gives a run for its money. This is a very beautiful belt, and this is a belt that a champion would be wearing. Let me know in your comments, who was the real World's Champion? Who had the real World Heavyweight Championship belt? Was it the Big Gold Crumrine, or was it the Winged Eagle WWF Heavyweight Championship belt? Let me know. We're going to be having more videos coming up. Like I said, I know this was kind of a different type of belt review. I didn't go through all the logistics and stuff, but I did, you know, go through, you know, what my thoughts and opinions were of it. And that's what this channel is going to be. I am an old school wrestling fan. I've been watching wrestling since I was a kid. I'll share more on that in my other videos. I've been watching wrestling, you know, all my adult years, and, you know, get a lot of hate for it. I do get a lot of hate for it. People don't understand why I am a wrestling fan, but I am a wrestling fan, and I will be until the day I die. This is something that I've always enjoyed. I appreciate the art of it. I appreciate the storytelling. It's just something that's in me. And I remember the first time that I saw a wrestling match on TV, and I was hooked. I will share more on that story in a later video at a later time. But I also got a video coming up of the time when I met Goldberg, and me and him were face to face, and it wasn't that good of an experience. I will share with you. You will let me know if you think I was in the right, or if he was in the right, or if I was in the wrong. But it is an interesting story that I will be sharing coming up on my next video. Thank you. Hit that like and subscribe button if you have not already subscribed. And remember, this is Rude Rob's Wrestling, where you will get all your wrestling needs met. Thank you, and have a good day. God bless.